All right, let's talk about a book that absolutely took over the world, Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code. Today, we're going to decode the massive controversy that exploded around it. How did this one novel become both a global phenomenon and a cultural lightning rod at the exact same time?
So let's start by framing the central paradox here, because it's a wild one. On one hand, you have this staggering success story, a true publishing juggernaut. But on the other hand, it attracted some of the most intense, just blistering criticism you can imagine from both the literary and historical worlds. First, let's just wrap our heads around the numbers. We're talking over 80 million copies sold. I mean, that is just staggering. That puts it right up there with the best-selling novels of all time. You just can't deny its place in publishing history. It was a monster hit. And yet, on the other side of the coin, you have celebrated legendary authors like Salman Rushdie delivering this absolutely scathing verdict. He's not just saying he dislikes it, he's saying it actually makes other bad novels look bad. Ouch.
And if you thought that was harsh, well, the beloved writer and actor Stephen Fry went even further. He offered let's just say a more colorful and frankly brutal assessment of the book's literary quality. And it wasn't just individuals piling on. Major literary institutions like The New Yorker were just as dismissive. Unmitigated junk. I mean, there was really no middle ground here. People either loved it or they absolutely loathed it. So this is the core question, right? What on earth created this huge divide? How can a book have such massive popular appeal and at the same time this level of pure critical contempt? Let's dig in and find out.
Okay, so the first big argument against the book, the first layer of criticism, really focused on the writing itself. From a literary standpoint, critics and a lot of readers just found it clunky and, maybe most of all, incredibly predictable.
Critics pretty quickly identified what they started calling the Dan Brown formula. It goes like this. You get a shocking murder, which brings in our hero, Professor Robert Langdon. He gets paired up with a brilliant female expert, and then bam, they're off on a frantic 24-hour chase across Europe. There's almost always a twist where a trusted friend is the villain, and the big secret they're hunting for isn't what it seems. Now, it definitely makes for a page-turner, but critics argued it got really repetitive.
And then there's the hero himself, Robert Langdon. People pointed out a lot of, well, contradictions. He's a world-famous symbologist, but that academic field is actually called semiotics. He's supposed to be an expert on Italian art, but he doesn't speak Italian. And for a supposed genius, he gets stumped by pretty simple puzzles until, the exact moment the plot needs him to solve them.
But, okay, let's move on from the writing style, because this next layer of criticism is where the controversy really catches fire. We're not talking about clunky sentences anymore. We're talking about the book's claims to be historically accurate. This is the spark that lit the flame. Before page 1, before the story even starts, there's a page titled Fact. And it claims that all the descriptions of art, architecture, and secret rituals in the book are accurate. That one page completely changed the game. It turned a simple thriller into a novel that claimed it was built on a foundation of truth. And historians and scholars, they noticed.
Just take a look at its portrayal of the Catholic organization Opus Dei. In the book, they're this violent, secretive, murderous group. But in reality, it's a Catholic organization founded back in 1928 that's all about helping everyday people find spirituality in their daily lives. The gap between what the book claimed and what's on the historical record, well, it's enormous. And this wasn't just some stuffy academic debate either. This had real-world consequences. The depiction was so controversial that Opus Dei itself formally requested that the film studio add a disclaimer to the movie to make it crystal clear that the story was fiction, not a documentary.
But really, the biggest historical claim, the one that the entire plot hangs on, is all about this ancient secret society called the Priory of Sion, which is supposedly guarding the book's central secret. So in the novel, the Priory is this 1,000-year-old organization, and its leaders, just a casual who's who of historical geniuses like Leonardo da Vinci and Isaac Newton. And their mission is to protect one of the greatest secrets in all of history. Okay, but here's where it gets wild. The historical record tells a radically different story. The real Priory of Sion, It wasn't founded in 1099. It was basically a local club registered in France in 1956 by a con artist named Pierre Plantard. He and his friends literally forged documents to create this mythical backstory for their group. And here's the kicker. In 1993, Plantard himself admitted under oath to a French judge that he'd made the whole thing up, fabricated everything. So let that sink in. The absolute bedrock of the Da Vinci Code's entire plot, this ancient secret society, wasn't ancient at all. It was a modern and very well-documented fraud. The book's central mystery wasn't rooted in some deep, dark history, but in a 20th century hoax. And this incredible revelation about the Priory of Sion hoax is really the key to understanding the book's complicated and controversial legacy. Get this, the authors of the non-fiction book that first made the hoax popular actually sued Dan Brown for plagiarism. They ended up losing the case, but the judge's ruling was really important. It basically said that ideas presented as historical research, even if they turn out to be hoaxes, are fair game for a fiction writer to use as inspiration. And to make things even more confusing for the public, the author himself kept fanning the flames. In huge interviews, he kept insisting that the history in his novel was, and I quote, 99% true, and that absolutely all of it was based in fact. That blurred the line between fact and fiction for millions and millions of readers. Which really leaves us with this final, fascinating question. The unbelievable success of the Da Vinci Code, even though its foundation was a proven modern hoax, reveals something really powerful about us, doesn't it? It shows this deep cultural hunger we have for secret histories and hidden truths. So maybe the biggest mystery isn't in the book itself, but in why we are so captivated by these stories, even when we know they're not real.